Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am bringing you our 2022 end of year homeschool update. Hello, if you're new here, I'm Christine. I'm a homeschooling mom of 3 kids and I share homeschool content here on this channel. Today I'm going to be chatting to you about our homeschool year, our 2022 homeschool year. If you're not familiar with where I live and how we do things, our homeschool year ends in December and it begins in sort of like the end of January, beginning of February. That is how our school year runs. Our summer is now at the end of the year because we're in the southern hemisphere, and so our school dates are very different to those of you in the northern hemisphere. So while you guys are sort of mid-year with your school, we are finished our school, and I wanted to give you guys an update on how it went. I usually do a term update at the end of every term. We do 6 terms for our homeschool, and so this is kind of like our term 6 update and just sort of like an end of year update all in one. I actually went back and watched my curriculum videos for the beginning of the school year to sort of like compare and see what we started with and where we've ended up, because you do forget along the way, because I kind of chop and change depending on how things are going for each kid. And so yeah, I just wanted to like let you guys know how things went, how term 6 went, how the whole year went as a whole, and kind of some ideas moving forward. I'm excited to share that with you. So keep watching if you're interested in finding all of that out. Okay, so let's just go through, I think, kid by kid, and then we'll do group subjects and like discuss what we started with, how we changed things. So first of all was my eldest child, who was in 2nd grade, but I say that with quotation marks because kind of straddled between 2nd and 1st grade. And so I kind of like, that's where he would be if he were in school, but like I just, it's just kind of an arbitrary number, but just to give you an idea. So we started the year with level 1 from The Good and the Beautiful, their language arts. He finished the level K the year previous, and that was going fine, but we did end up switching up to their updated level 1 mid-year just because it was nicer. And honestly, that went really, really well. His reading improved in leaps and bounds this year. He's doing amazingly well, and it's just really cool to see him gaining confidence and just being able to read fluently instead of having to like sound out every single word and get frustrated. So that's been a really big blessing this year for all of us, and he really did very, very well with level 1. I was happy with that. The only thing that he struggled with in there was their spelling. I was hoping their updated spelling would work for him. It didn't really. He just wasn't retaining anything. So that was kind of a journey. We started the year with the Moffat Girls spelling curriculum from Teachers Pay Teachers. Again, he didn't really retain a lot of it. I think it can work well for many kids. It just didn't work super well for him. He enjoyed it, but it wasn't great. And so then when the new level 1 came out, we tried their spelling in there for a while. Again, wasn't working. And then if you've watched like my most recent term update, you'll see that we switched to All About Spelling from All About Learning. And we've used All About Reading in the past. It worked really well for him. We started with All About Spelling. That has been working very well for him. He's been enjoying it, and I think we're going to continue with that next year. But that was like the big change for him, I guess. Because other than that, we really didn't change. I didn't change his curriculum at all. He stuck with level 2 math from The Good and the Beautiful all year, and he did really well with that. He really enjoys math. That's probably the subject he always would gravitate towards. And his handwriting, he finished off level 1, and he also completed level 2 handwriting from The Good and the Beautiful this year. So he did super well with that. He enjoyed it. It's one of those things I have to like get him to slow down and do it properly instead of just rushing through it. But he is actually, when he applies himself, he's actually really good at handwriting. It's just, well, I would say a typical boy, and like what I can relate it to the guys that I've known in my life and my brother and things like that. He just wants to get it done so we can go outside and play. But he is good at it when he applies himself. So he did really well with school this year. I feel like it was a very successful year for he and I together. We found our groove and did really well. So then we move on to my daughter, who was in level K this year. She was in kindergarten, and it was an interesting year for her. So we started out with All About Reading, and I think I had level K prep from The Good and the Beautiful, and I also had Ready to Read from Gather Round on hand. I had like a bunch of resources I was going to pull from because I just didn't have anything that I loved entirely, and so I was going to pull from different things. And we kind of muddled our way through the first half of the year until The Good and the Beautiful released their new Level K language arts, and we ended up switching to that and she's done tremendously well with that. I've been very, very, very pleased with that program. It's been much more developmentally appropriate. It's worked very well in our homeschool, and so she ended up doing that this year. She's done the spelling in there. She's just done awesome. So she didn't quite complete it because we started it halfway through the year. She's almost completed it. I think she's got like 20 lessons left, and I was going to keep pushing, and then I just noticed that she was getting to a point where it wasn't fun, and she wasn't retaining everything she needed to, and I was like, no, we need to stop this. So my plan for her is to continue that over the summer, not necessarily the workbook, but the reading booster cards, which if you're familiar with The Good and the Beautiful, you'll understand what those are. But just to work on that and work on her reading fluency over the summer so that she can move on to level 1 in the new year, which I think she will be perfectly ready for by that stage. But just you know what it's, I have spoken to my friends about this before, that like with in my experience with kids and teaching them how to read, they kind of like learn and they hit these roadblock points, and they need it to almost like ruminate in their brains what they've just like learned, and then all of a sudden it clicks and they just jump right ahead, and then they're ready for the next thing, and that's kind of a cycle that continues until they're reading really fluently. And so instead of trying to keep pushing through, it's better just to like leave it and let them just read books that they're already familiar with and they're already good at, and books that are easier for them to build up their confidence and their fluency, rather than like constantly pushing on the challenging work. So that's been my experience anyway. I don't know if it's like scientifically proven in any way or shape or form, but that is just what works for us. And so that's my plan moving forward with her. She did The Good and the Beautiful Level K Math, which was something that we stuck with, and she did really, really well with that all year. Math is not necessarily her strong suit. She's not bad at it, but it's just not her natural tendency. She's definitely stronger in like literature and reading and grammar and all that. And then she also did level 1. Did she do level 1 or level K? No, she did level 1 handwriting from The Good and the Beautiful, and she did really, really well with that. She loves handwriting. We started with a Becca handwriting just because I had a handwriting book that was given to me, and I was like, hey, let's use it. But honestly, it was so boring in comparison to The Good and the Beautiful, which has beautiful coloring pages and all that kind of stuff in it as well. And she's my artistic kid. She just loves doing that kind of thing. And so I decided to switch to that for her, and she's really enjoyed it. So she's done great, and I've been very happy with how her school has gone over this year. And then my youngest daughter, so I wasn't really planning on doing any formal preschool with her. You'll see I did a video with some resources that I've got, and then I ended up purchasing Before 5 in a Row, and we did some of that with her. And again, in my previous term update, like life just hit us hard in the face. In term 5, my husband was really, really unwell, and like a bunch of stuff happened, and so that was just the first thing to go because it just wasn't necessary, and we were like doing bare bones school anyway, and so that just got pushed to the side, and so we never ended up completing that. I've barely done any kind of school with her this year. It's mostly just been reading books to her. So that's that. I'm actually currently selling on my Before 5 in a Row things because I know I'm not going to use them, and I've got other stuff coming for next year that I'm looking forward to. So that is how preschool went. It didn't. Nothing really happened. She joined in, and to be honest, she was 3 for most of this year, so that's very, very young. And with my son, I didn't do anything until he was like nearly 5. With my daughter, I did do stuff at 3 because she was asking for it. With my youngest, I have done very little because she hasn't been interested, and I didn't want to have to add anything onto my plate unless it was like necessary, if you know what I mean. Now in the last couple of months, she has been asking every time we pull out the school books, where's my school? Where's my school? So I know she's ready for something next year, and I will do a video on all of that and what I'm planning on doing with her very soon, probably in the next month or so. So yeah, that's how that went. And then our group subjects. So our group subjects, we started with, group subjects is what always tends to fall away by the end of the year. I feel like the enrichment studies and all that, just as the year goes on, things get put to the side, and that's kind of what happened. So we started, I do recommend going and watching my group subjects video if you want to and see what we started out with. There was nothing in our group subjects that we didn't enjoy. It just didn't all get done. So all of the programs are fantastic. I want to preface this by saying that. I'm not just saying that. I'm genuinely, like, they're really fantastic programs. We just didn't end up using them all. So the things we really stuck with was hymn study. We kept doing hymn study, and I used, I think it's called Then Sings My Soul. It's just like a book with hymns in it, and it's got the stories to each hymn. So we did that. We still did our read alouds all year. And we did our history. We actually finished Story of the World Volume 1. We really, really enjoyed that. My kids have learned a lot through that. I've learned a lot through that. But we really enjoyed that. And we did our science. So we did arthropods from The Good and the Beautiful, and we did space science. And we didn't quite complete space science. We got close. But again, because of the end of the year, things got mucky, and so we just kind of did what we could, but we've completed that for now. So we did those, and the things that fell aside were nature study, and I've just realized that I'm just not a nature study mom. It's just not something that I do. Like, I love the idea of it. I like the concept of it, and I just don't ever do it. So my kids go outside and play, and that's our nature study. And we will learn about it in a formal way, but just taking walks and stuff like that, we don't do a heck of a lot of it. My kids are outside tons, but it's just like not formal, and I don't set it up. So we had exploring nature with children, and I've kept it because I think that that could be a great thing to do with our homeschool group one day. I think it's a wonderful program, and it's amazing, but it's just not something we did this year. So we did like maybe the first couple terms of it and then stopped. So there was that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We did some picture study. We kind of did that halfway through the year, and actually enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. I don't know how much my kids did, but I enjoyed it. Composer study fell away very quickly. I don't know why, but it just did. We didn't continue with that. Poetry, we did all the way through. So we did Robert Louis Stevenson, and I just read his poems like once a week. And then I've also got the 2 books, Nature Poem for Every Day and an Animal Poem for every day of the year. And I interchange that. So like on odd days, I'd read from the animal poetry book. On even dates, I would read from the nature poetry book. And my kids love that. I like that. It's quick and easy. We did our scripture memory every day. That is something I was very determined that we stick with, and really enjoyed that. And what was the other thing I was going to mention? I don't know. Maybe it will come back to me. But oh, that's what it was, characters training. So we did that through most of the year, and then I think the last term I just decided not to continue with it for now. Not because there's anything wrong with the program, but our last term I just really peeled away everything that wasn't essential, because my kids want to be outside, I want to be outside, so we just did the bare basics of school and got done. So in our last term we just did science, history, math, language arts, and handwriting, and that was it, and it worked really well. And we did our read alouds, and poetry and scripture memory. And most of that was done in like an hour and a half. It was done very quickly, and we really enjoyed it. So term 6 was a good term, and I thought that I would want to do school much closer to Christmas this year, but I did not. I was tired, I was done, and we finished last week, and I'm so glad we're done. It is the final week of November. I do have plans for over the summer, and I'm going to chat about that in another video, because I do want some structure and routine in our day still. Otherwise things get messy, and yeah, we just need some sort of like points in the day where we can regroup and everything gets calmed down, because it's busy with 3 kids, and the days can be long if there's no structure, and so I like a little bit of something, and it just keeps me disciplined and on point as well. So this year was a good year for our school. I feel very satisfied with what we were able to achieve. I feel like we found our groove. I feel like I learned things about myself. For instance, I love traditional school in a lot of ways. Not necessarily traditional school in the public school sense, but just how it's taught, from like textbooks and workbooks and worksheets and stuff. I do like that. I like the structure, and I like the discipline that comes with that. I also like a literature-based approach, and I like a lot of Charlotte Mason concepts, but I don't adhere to any one of those homeschooling styles strictly. And so I'm excited for next year and the curriculum choices that I've made for next year. I've got like exciting videos coming about that, which I cannot film yet because I want everything to arrive first so I can go through it with you guys. But I just feel like I learned a lot about myself in that way, and made some headway and like just clarity on what I want for us going forward, things that I can put aside. Like sometimes you love the idea of something, but it just doesn't work in your homeschool. Like I love the idea of nature study. It's just not really something that we end up doing. And so, yeah, that's been really, really cool. And I'm excited to talk to you guys more about it. But I think that's about it. I mean, it was a good year. Life happened as it always does. But for the most part, things were starting to get back to normal as far as the world goes, kind of. I don't know if we'll ever get totally back to normal. But things were open and we could go out, and we met the most amazing homeschool friends this year. That is the one good thing that came from all the madness over the last few years, was just the friends that we've made. And my kids have made really fast friendships, but more importantly, I would say I made really good friendships, which I was craving and needing. And the Lord really just provided in that area. And our homeschool community has grown tremendously, and we've just got this great core group now that we are part of, and it's a very casual group. We don't do like co-op studies and stuff at this point, maybe in the future, but right now it's just an opportunity for us to like debrief every week and just chat and catch up, and for our kids to explore and have fun with their friends. And that's been a massive, massive blessing. That would be like one of the highlights of this year for me, for sure. So it's been a good year. Every year, honestly, has been a good year as far as our homeschooling. I think the longer you do it, the more you fall in love with it. And like I would say the last couple of years where I was homeschooling with a toddler and a baby, there were definitely moments where I was like, it would be easier to have my children in school right now. Like I don't think I ever would have actually done that, but it was definitely a thought that crossed my mind. Whereas this year, I just didn't think that way. And I don't know if it's because my youngest was that much older and it was that much easier, or if it's just because the more we do it, the more I love it. And I could not imagine not having my kids home with me. Whatever the reason, I have loved it and I've enjoyed it. It doesn't mean it's been easy. There's definitely been very difficult aspects of it. But I think that's just life in general and parenting, and not necessarily homeschooling in and of itself. But the blessings that it gives far outweighs the challenges. And even the challenges, like it brings about blessings. It's just because you learn things, and it builds your character, and it builds the character of your children. And ultimately, I want to grow as a person, and I want to be more of what the Lord wants for me. And so if that means going through testing times, then, that's what it is. So I don't want to say bring it on, because the Lord hears those things and I feel like he's like, okay then. So, yeah, I would like some easier times next year would be a blessing. Maybe not so many health scares and sickness. That would be a major blessing if we didn't have to deal with that so much. But the Lord knows, and he takes care of us. And so, yeah. If you've got any questions for me about this year and how it went, please leave them in the comments below. I will have more videos coming. I'm going to do a video on our read alouds that we did, and just a bit of an overview of them and a review and what we thought. And then lots of other exciting updates coming in the near future. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
The world had more of your smile. What if the wind could spread your love? What if your sweetness could reach every